Howdy folks, we're just going to do a quick video here on the rigid bodies of Blender. Just using gravity to make objects fall for your table drop assignment. If you've stumbled upon this video and you're in the other Blender class, this is more for the 11s and 12s, but you're welcome to watch it if you want. So I've opened up Blender here and I'm just going to click anywhere to get rid of the splash screen. As always, I'm going to delete that cube because I don't like it. And we're just going to create a new surface here for things to fall on. I'm going to create another cube. It's funny, I know, but it's what we do. And we're going to shrink that down and then scale it up. But I'm going to scale it up on just the flats by hitting Shift-Z, excluding the Z-axis. And I'll scale that up there so I have a surface. If I look through my camera, looks pretty good. Okay, I'll pull that up a little bit, and then we'll just make sort of a coffee table quickly in editing mode here. Grab the faces, pull them down. And of course, in class, we've talked about making this better in our classes, but this will just do for now as a little quick coffee table. That last little trick, changing the origins, we will talk about that in class because that is a lesson upcoming. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna have some things fall. Just quickly give this a color here to make it a bit more distinctive. And then I'll quickly just add some very simple objects to fall on this table. Of course, we need to see it in a different view mode. Okay. So I'm going to add, just a cube, pull that up, shrink it down, rotate it a bit so it falls not so cleanly, move it to the side here, and let's make that a different color as well. Sure, purple. And we'll add another object here. We can add a donut of some kind, pull it up there, and make that donut blue, and we'll add another object. We'll make a ball, and we'll make that ball red. Okay, so we have three objects here that we want to fall onto this table that we can see here. And this is the basis of that first assignment for animations. But I want to talk about animations here. So animations are controlled by this toolbar here, this panel. It is a timeline panel. And if we press the space bar, as you can see, we move forward in frames, but nothing's happening because we haven't told anything to happen yet. You can also press this to play animations and this to pause, just clicking the buttons here, and then you can go back to the first frame. Generally, while we're learning animation, we always want to make sure we're on the first frame or frame 0 here. There's a slight difference, but for our purposes for now, there's not much of a difference. And the shortcut key for that is Shift and arrow key. Shift and left arrow goes back to the beginning. Shift and right arrow goes to the end of our animation. So I'm going to make sure we're at the beginning of our animation so we can watch these things fall. And we're going to animate via Rigidbody, like I said. So that is using inbuilt sort of physics simulation and gravity in order to make these objects fall. Later we'll learn how to move things around and animate them for real, but right now we're going to let Blender do the work by making these objects fall here. So let's go to our physics panel here. So our physics interface here is this orbiting object, one around another. That makes sense, easy to remember. Our physics properties, click on an object here, then click on physics properties. You can see our different physics properties here. They're slightly changed for Blender 4 and above here, so make sure you're using the newer version of Blender on your computer. And we have these objects, the object properties here, and we, like I said, are going to add the rigid body. You can see there's one here for rigid body and one here for rigid body constraint. I'm not going to add a constraint today. I'm just going to add a simple rigid body. If I click on that, it automatically adds it. That's why it has the X here. I can take it off by clicking on the X. I'm going to add it. And for now, this is a cube here, so we can change the shape to a box. Doesn't make a difference, but you can see there's all sorts of other types of things we can use. For our simple box, it doesn't make much of a difference. And now if I press play, you can see the box will fall. It'll continue to fall. And then the other thing I want you to notice here is on the bottom of the timeline, as we're playing, it creates this yellowish orange bar. In Blender, a yellowish orange bar or yellowish orange color anywhere is the color that something is being animated, which is a useful thing to notice for lots of different things, which will come up later. I'm going to go back, like I said, to the beginning of the animation here. Watch this up there. The yellowish orange bar is still there because it is calculated this physics as this animation here, but it's not exactly what we want. I'm going to go ahead and add a rigid body to the rest of our objects here. Add one here, here, and here. And now we have 3 objects and 3 rigid bodies. We can add a different type of collider to each one of them here. Sphere there. But still, when we play the animation, all of them are going to fall and nothing happens. And you might have guessed why that's the case, and that's because this table here has no rigid body on it as well. But if I add a rigid body to it, nothing's going to happen here as well. Oh, I just added a rigid body constraint instead. Add a rigid body to it. I'm going to press play and the whole thing falls because of course that just added gravity to the table. So to make it stay in one place, I'm going to tell it to be a passive surface. And now when I press play, our objects will fall onto the table, which is exactly what we want. Of course, for your purposes, we are going to make a more complicated objects to fall. Sometimes when we make things fall, we want the animation to play all the way through so it does all the physics calculations. We're going to get more complex with this in class, but in case you needed a real simple intro to rigid bodies, there is one for you here.